and does not stop running.
Blake Murphy.
This is the identity for the Arizona Cardinals.
The run defense is just horrendous, and it's been horrendous for the Cardinals for a long time.
And Marcos Labrada.
He's going to bring over his philosophy. It should make it better.
Present the hottest NFL podcast from the country's hottest state.
He should be turning around the logo.
Actually, some breaking news we can cover here. This popped up just about, 6 minutes ago.
It's Bird Reboot.
All right, Arizona Cardinals fans, welcome in. This is the Bird Reboot podcast. We got Blake and Marcos here for you guys. Super excited to be on tonight to go over a bit of some good news today for the Arizona Cardinals. At least it's not the worst case scenario, probably the best case scenario with what we saw. We'll talk a little bit about reviewing the Panthers and the Cardinals game that we saw, a couple of big plays that stood out to us on our weekly film review session. And then we'll take a little bit of time at the end of our show for a quick preview against the upcoming San Francisco 49ers, who may or may not have a certain Brock Purdy playing. I guess we're going to have to find out. Before we get into all of it, Marcos, how are you doing, and how are you feeling about the Arizona Cardinals being 2-0?
Well, it's like we should be happier, and of course the recourse, or not the recourse, like the discourse has been more so negative because of the type of wins that we had. It wasn't like pretty wins. It wasn't anything that was dominant. We should be 2-0 against these teams, but we should be 2-0 like convincingly, and not so much like going into the fourth quarter, like, with the Saints having to like stop them on that last drive. Defensive play, they got us, to secure that win. And then once again, defensive play, which was by Calais Campbell getting the sack on I can't believe I always whiff on the names and stuff, on the quarterback to be able to end the game. Obviously, Calais Campbell being 39 years old and him doing that at that advanced age, it's impressive. So we should be feeling better, but we're going to break down a little bit more on some of the plays, some of the growth, and some of the stuff that could be better. But I mean, we are 2-0, so that should matter.
Absolutely, it does matter, especially when you talk about the fact that when we looked at this incoming schedule for the Cardinals, we said they got to start out 2-0 because they have 2 games against the NFC West opponents, who at this point are 1-1 and 2-0. I think I should say, 2-0 for the Niners, 2-0 for the Rams, 1-1 for the Seahawks. The only reason why the NFC West has a loss right now is because they played each other. So like you said, it's super exciting to be able to preview this, but we are even more, maybe not excited, at least as far as relieved, I think is the better word. So today's Jonathan Gannon update, at least that we had from, I'll go ahead and pull this up for you guys watching online on Cards Chatter. Now, again, just for those of you who are not familiar with the way that our show is going to be kind of pulled, we're kind of going to have 2 different segments to our show. We're going to have a segment at the halfway point called Halftime. We're going to address some of you guys with your comments, some of you guys who are over there in our chat. Be sure you're also submitting some Q&A for the end of the show. So we'll kind of do a little bit of a shout out at halftime for some of you guys, talk through some comments. And then at the end of our show, we're also going to do a little bit of a Q&A, kind of answer some questions back and forth you guys may have. So make sure that you are taking a look at that. And let's talk a little bit, Marcos, about what Jonathan Gannon said today. We have an update, at least, that came out and this is something at least that was maybe not unknown potentially for those, but it was something that I think is super important to recognize, which was after the game, Max Melton was actually not as bad off as we thought that he was going to be. Part of that is that from what we had seen was he was walking around on let me get this lined up here for all of us guys who are on the video section as get used to some of this new tech here. There we go. Garrett Williams going on IR. DJ Collier also going on IR, but both can potentially return. That would indicate it is not a ACL tear for Garrett Williams, which is good news. We also know that Max Melton practiced today. There was 0 restrictions at practice, which meant that he was out there like normal. We knew from after the game, I think it was Teo Mackey sent out a message saying that he was on crutches, on a knee brace, but overall was in relatively good spirits. We think that when a lot of times a player's knee slams into the ground, the way that it slammed, it didn't look like there was tears. It just looked like there was quite a bit of pain. It seems like there may have been like either a bone bruise or some quick pain that was hit, but there wasn't anything as far as restrictions. Then after that, if it comes down to just pain and discomfort for where you're playing and that clears up in a day or two, it was good news, at least for Arizona. Will Johnson, however, was not practicing. Now, there was a lot of people who were making a stir about Will Johnson sending out a Instagram post saying, keep the faith. A lot of people like, oh, this is like, we got to believe in this. This is, he's asking for people to believe in him. I think there was a little bit of misunderstanding. He sent out what was kind of more of a post that wasn't a, here's a sympathy post, I'll be back soon. Here's a, I'm going to be out for a while, but I'll rise stronger. Like, it was one of those, like, we want our game, keep it going. And if you wanted to add a little element of it, it was keep the faith that I'll be able to play on Sunday, not that I'll be able to play again this season. This was a great set, I think, for the Arizona Cardinals to at least recognize that whether or not Max Melton can go, there's a Thursday night game following, whether or not Will Johnson can go, you're at least going to be in a shorter term position with these cornerbacks versus a long term position. And that, I think, Marcos, is about the best news that we could have hoped for given what could have been the outcome.
Yeah, I seriously thought that we were gonna like hear some news about both of them being out for the rest of the season. So hearing Garrett Williams go to the IR is very unfortunate. Um, but hearing that Max Melton was practicing or was out there, with the crutches and whatnot, yeah, it did look more so that it was a bone bruise than anything else. And Will Johnson, kind of being cryptic. We have no idea how severe his little injury is, but it doesn't seem like it's anything more severe. I think it was something like a pulled groin. So that takes time to recover, but that's not season ending. So we should be getting those guys back probably within the next 2 to 3 games, I believe. They probably might be out this game and obviously the Thursday night matchup, which is a short game. And after that, we should be seeing them back on the field. Of course, I was asking questions about Elijah Jones because I was kind of surprised that Denzel Burke was getting so many snaps. So apparently he's being asked to step up. I have no idea how he's going to, jump over someone like Denzel Burke if, you're hearing the great news about our 2 other cornerbacks. But, I mean, I don't think they're going to be available. So for now, Elijah Jones looks like he should be CB1. Denzel Burke is probably going to play in the slot, even though they should put him on the outside. And Keitrell Clark should play in the slot, but they're going to put him on the outside. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I think that it seems like they're also calling up Darren Hall out of the practice squad is what we've been able to hear. So with Darren Hall being called up out of the practice squad, what we're probably going to expect is that you're going to see him man slot corner. You'll see Dadrian Taylor Demerson man the slot in the corner. You're going to see them probably, like you said, utilize the kind of rotation with some of their safeties, which is going to be really interesting, I think, because as we've talked about, this is something that every team's going to have to overcome some sort of issue. Like some teams, you get a quarterback injury. Some teams, your top 5. I think when people say top 5, I do think Max Melton, at least to the Cardinals, was probably going to be their 3rd or 4th cornerback. So with him not going out, it just really shows, I think there's a little bit of excellence that comes down to this news that you get to get one of those guys who in a pinch, if you need to line him up on a Ricky Pearsall next week and he's good to go, if you need to line him up on a Jawan Jennings outside, you're probably in a good spot to be able to do it. The hardest hit, of course, is going to be Garrett Williams. We don't know when he may return, what time. A lot of times those are going to be things that will come out through the Adam Schefters of the world, through the Ian Rappaports of the world. They're going to send out those messages because that'll be with the agent saying when they can expect them back. I would not be surprised if it's a case where Garrett Williams is out for the season and could come back in the postseason. I wouldn't be shocked if it's going to be sometime we're talking about in December. It does seem like he is going to be out for a while. It's part of why they made these moves. But yeah, it's very exciting, at least for the most part, I think, for Cardinals fans. As we said, also exciting is the fact that the Cardinals walked away with a win. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of some film review, Marcos, because I think that one of the things we wanted to talk about that was part of why the Cardinals did so well in this game. It had to do with how Kyler Murray played ultimately on 3rd and long. This is something where last year the Cardinals were one of the worst teams when it came to 3rd and long passing situations. Like, they had a better job and a better chance of handing the ball off to Amari DiMercato on 3rd down for one of those delayed draw plays and picking up the 1st down and 3rd and long than they had passing the ball. Like, there would be times they would pass it and get it to Trey McBride. Teams wised up and were able to cover it. Here's a little bit, at least with some of the first quarter, where you've got a short pass at least in the middle of Trey Benson for just a couple of yards here. I'll pull this one up here on our big screen for you guys. You'll be able to see that.
This thing rotates, huh?
It like does indeed. So this is one of those plays, at least, that you can see with on. I believe that this was a 6-yard play. At least this is in 3rd and 7 plus for the most part. This is the play where you talk about Cardinals not being able to quite come through. You had a little bit of space. He get touchdown. Cardinals ended up having the miss to Marvin Harrison Jr., which we'll be able to cover on that 1st down play. That'll be one of our play highlights that we'll be able to go over. But one of the things that was really fun to be able to see over this is on 3rd and 8. And this is going to be you get Trey McBride lined up for the most part. Kyler Murray is able to actually take off, get the ball down to him, despite being under some relatively decent pressure. I want to be able to show this one here one more time from the sideline view. You end up here with Trey McBride starting on one side. He moves to the other side of the lineup. You see number 7 following him. That's going to tell you it's a man coverage look. So Kyler knows he's got a linebacker, I believe, here on one-on-one coverage with Trey McBride. You're going to end up seeing as far as for how it is with the snap. They got 5 down linemen. You got Price spread out wide. You know pretty much that you'll be able to have the blitz pickup should be done here by Trey Benson. Now, here's the thing about Benson being a young player. When you look at the blitz pickup and how it takes place, Benson, he does not pick up. He's going to pick up the one guy that's there down at the bottom. Kyler ends up seeing the pocket kind of cave in. He goes out for the pass. In this spot here, you've got the man coverage look where it looks like the way that they've set up some of their coverage. This is going to be trying to be able to get a little crossing pattern here. So this is almost like an outside mesh concept. Your goal is to either get the ball to Greg Dortch underneath with some space with Trey blocking, or you get Trey kind of blocking with the guy up front. Kyler, actually, he does a little bit of a happy dance with his feet. He could just simply be able to step up. We'll see a good example of that later. But he, with the awkward arm angle, is still able to get the ball to Trey McBride at the 1st down marker for a 1st down. Good, solid quarterback play to be able to start out.
Yeah. So basically, once they motion Trey McBride from I believe that's the boundary over to the field
he sees
side.
it. He gets that signal in.
So he knows he's attacking outside leverage, and this concept. Once we go ahead and let it play out, and then we'll go back to the sideline view right after this. I know this pro thing is a pain in the butt a lot of time. Okay, there we go. So once he motions, he knows he has leverage on the linebacker. Linebacker's kind of trailing him. He's on the hash marks. He's going to attack, obviously, to the outside. Look at where the linebacker's actually lined up. He actually has outside leverage. So thanks to that little mini, somewhat like rub route that really didn't do much for that linebacker, it did enough to be able to kind of be cognizant of the fact that there's another route being ran underneath, and there's a good chance that if he possibly has a collision with either another wide receiver or with his own guy, that he has to kind of pay attention to that. While he's paying attention to that, Trey McBride, who's a mismatch machine, is able to just plant that foot, stem his route to the outside and have that little bit of a step on him. That now, this is something I was trying to explain to some people on Twitter, and I've explained it before. This is what NFL wide open looks like, and it's not wide open as in like, hey, he's here and there's nobody within 5 yards of him. In the NFL, because the game is tighter, the game is faster, the game is played by even the worst of the worst players. They're professionals. They made it to the league for a reason. You have that yard of space, you throw it to where only your guy can get it. That's exactly what he did. He threw it to where his guy put his arms out. His defender couldn't do anything about it because he had a yard of space. Couldn't do a break on the ball, was able to catch it, stay in bounds. Well, not stay in bounds. He was inbounds long enough to be able to get that first down a yard deep. So that's a great play. And, of course, that rub after they got the man coverage tell, it was actually, it seems like the first read on that was probably going to be Greg Dortch coming across for that crossing route. But that's why you have the quarterback make decisions and make the decision of, like, what is he like best? What is he more comfortable with? He obviously was looking at him, but his guy is Trey McBride, and it's Trey McBride for a reason. Very good route runner, mismatch machine, and great hands.
Yeah, no, I think that's all true. And the other thing with this play is also when you're talking about this is going to be trying to get to the sticks. So I think a lot of this, when you look at how Zay Jones is running his route, this is a clearing route. We've talked about this all the time about how last year Marvin Harrison Jr. ended up being the guy who ended up essentially kind of running some of these clearing routes to get guys open underneath and deep. I think that this play here, you can see at least where Marv is kind of on the other side with JC Horn's got him locked down. Kyler was never looking to this side of the route. Marv had one-on-one coverage, but I think they ultimately had this as designed as a play where Dortch is the check down to make a play. Like you said, this is probably a play where you run this mesh concept on 3rd and 5. You run it longer to be able to get Trey McBride as the deeper route open. And that is exactly what happened, where McBride ends up getting matched up on a linebacker. Kyler's able to see that. They're able to run the same play, but normally instead of it being hey, we're at 3rd and 4, need 5 yards, throw that play, get Dortch there, pull that play run. You just adjust the play a little bit for the most part, run the same play, and then you know exactly where you get to run to the sticks. Part of what we talk about with not just the awareness that McBride has, but why he's one of the top 3 tight ends in the league is because it's 3rd and 8, you need 9 yards. You go to Trey McBride, he gives you 9 yards. You move the chains, you move forward. That's one of the things we need. The other thing that's cool about this as well is what we saw in this game. Kyler made some good plays under some pressure. Now you've got Derek Brown, who is the best player on this Panthers defense. Maybe there's an argument for JC Horn, but take a look at how this is matched up. He's in that 3 tech position. So remember, you're going to have in this setup, it looks like you've got almost a wide 9 setup, which is going to be the 9 technique is going to be way on the outside, trying to be able to kind of get the outside runs for Kyler Murray taken away. You've got a 3 technique here between the center and the guard, and then you've got your defensive end spot lined up at least right here. Being able to kind of split between these two. So this is going to be essentially the 1 tech, 0 tech, 1 tech, 2 tech. You got your other essential kind of 3 tech here. This looks like at least actually a 1 tech at least. So what they're talking about here is, yeah, 4-eye would be the way to be able to probably put it best. At least you got but you got the 5th guy out here, so it's a little bit of a bear front would be probably what I would say, since there's a 5th guy there. Anyway, for those of us who want to correct this, like go ahead for each of those areas. But this is how the way that's set up is when you look at how it caves the pocket in. You're able to get pressure off of the left side, and they run a stunt. The goal is to try to get Derek Brown freed up and be able to get a free run here on Kyler Murray. You see him getting upfield. Part of the reason for this stunt is you're trying to get Kyler Murray into a position where he's going to look at this wide open lane, and Derek Brown's going to run around and be right there waiting for him. So instead of Kyler looking, he kind of moves up as there. You get Isaiah Adams one-on-one with Derek Brown, having to basically stop him. He's not holding him. Derek Brown is a beast of a human. He's kind of pushing. Kyler stepping up kind of into that space. They're kind of anticipating it. He's going to have to react. Like it's kind of like one of those tit for tat areas where the thing you're going to have to do if you're Kyler is make that play. So he's going to use a weird arm angle, whip the ball out, and he's going to take a hit for the most part, right to his helmet. That's not necessarily called. I think it's ticky-tacky, so I wouldn't have called it, at least if I'm the ref. That's probably a good no call right there. This is as a Cardinals fan saying it. You love the free 15 yards, but I wouldn't want it to be done to me either. It's one of those places where they catch the stunt well. Kyler takes the hit, gets the ball out to McBride. Like we said, this is just one play of quite a few, but it's a good indication of how Kyler was able to play overall on the day, Marcos.
Well, here's another thing that I'm gonna bring up, and obviously I had my little back and forth with Twitter on some things, and the only reason why I was showcasing some things was more so about a Petsing situation, not more of a Kyler situation, because I've seen Kyler make some throws that I posted up where they're running the same exact concept and they're attacking the same type of defense, and the outcome is different, and people would just say, hey, that's just all Petsing coaching them and whatnot. Anyways, the whole point of what I'm trying to bring up is that PFF brought up that Kyler Murray, as it is right now, is attacking that intermediate middle of the field, either with the third best QB, a passer rating. So targeting those intermediate middle, where it should be his biggest weakness and whatnot. His passer rating is about 102, I believe, or 98%. 98 point something. I'm not 100% sure. If you guys want to look it up, go ahead and look it up. That episode of PFF. the preview, of course, and
Right.
they do talk about how Kyler Murray has historically been horrible at being able to target that. Now, before we start thinking that this is going to be what it's going to be at, let's remember who he's played the defensive wise. Because the reason why he brought that up is because he's going to have to be going up against the number 1 and 2 linebacker tandems when it comes to coverage grades and coverage overall. So it's going to be one of those situations where he's getting more comfortable hitting that intermediate middle, but let's see if he can continuously keep doing that. And there's clips that like we have and I have of him hitting like those middle like routes that are just like on target.
Yeah, it's something that I'm thinking with the middle of the field and the outside of the field. What we've talked a lot about with Kyler also is there's plays that go to the middle of the field that are ones that we've seen to Trey McBride and to Marvin, but it's not been a strength that Kyler has had of consistently throwing there. Even Bryce Young has been in the same way there. There are some strengths that you do see with Kyler throwing, and one of those to Marvin Harrison Jr. was actually one that we got to see as a bit of a weakness. So here in this scene, we've got Marvin Harrison Jr. here. This is the
I think
infamous
your
miss.
your sound is out. Or is it mine?
Don't not know at least. Right now we've got this guy here, at least with Marvin Harrison Jr. Let me check here since it looks like that everything is set to go on my side. Take the snap. You got
I
one-on-one
don't know if it's
coverage.
my noise, but
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Go ahead,
But
Marcos. It's going to be on your side because it looks like my
okay,
microphone's coming through,
something's going on
unfortunately,
with
brother. Yeah.
my headset. Sorry
Oh,
about that.
Cardinal Rule says he hears both of us, so make sure you just get that headset fixed. But we can hear you fine, sir. Let's
Oh, there
go
we
ahead
go.
here, get this play going. So you got a one-on-one coverage because the safety's over the top. They're playing the run to James Conner. Pretty easy for you to kind of just be able to pull the ball down. Don't even have to fake it. You see that he just throws essentially what's going to be a little bit of a fade route to Marvin Harrison Jr. here. Marv looks back for the ball, kind of goes for a little bit at least. And then what we've seen with this play is kind of a broken up pass play at the end. Now, this, of course, is going to be with J.C. Horn on the opposite side of the field. So you're talking at least as far as when the coverage goes. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be there set. Now, Kyler's going to take it, throw the ball very quickly. And then what you can see here is he's fighting, working to get his way back to the ball. He ends up opening up. And then this is kind of what's really interesting is instead of reaching up for where the ball is, or fighting back to the ball, he kind of holds his hands up and is ready to kind of catch and cradle the ball back into his hands. You can see here, boom, the ball at least gets hit, knocked away at least at the last second, and it ends up being a no play, no touchdown. This would have been, obviously, for people in fantasy, a nice little boon. But as far as it goes with Marv, I think there's three things that stand out on the play. One of them, at least, is he gets the separation. He's open. Like you're talking about NFL open. He is NFL open on this play. The second, at least, is that he could be fighting back to the ball a little bit sooner is one of the other things that we've talked about where when it comes down to the biceps getting back there, instead of cradling the ball in, you don't want to be a body catcher as it is. You want to make sure that you're going back to the ball with your whole body because if you fight back to the ball and where the defender is sitting here, you get back there and the defender gets there too early, you will get the flag thrown. The third thing, at least here, is that Marvin said, oh, it was a great ball from Kyler. I kind of disagree a little bit. You take a look at this pass play here. I think it's a little bit underthrown. You want to put it where, like you said, Marcos, where only your receiver can get it. Marvin gets so much separation so quickly where he's got the back end that he doesn't fight back to where the ball is, but that throw then should be a little bit higher and farther away. You see how he has to kind of come back to the outside, trying to go to the back shoulder, put it a little bit further out there and trust Marv to be able to use that hands and extend that body. And that's an easy touchdown. So I think it's a combination of all three things where can you pin it fully on Kyler? No. Can you pin it fully on Marv? Maybe a little more, but I think at the end of the day, these are the sort of plays that you want to see Marvin improve on. But I think also at the same time, that ball is just a little bit too close where the DB is able to make a play on it. And so in that case, I think you look at this and say, you know what? There's more that Marvin can do here. I don't think it's fully his fault. And at the end of the day, the Cardinals ended up having to, I believe, kick a field goal on this drive because they were not able to punch it into the end zone to go up 14-0 versus 10-0.
See, this is the type of play I really like. I'm not sure. I'm not there during practice or whatnot. I really, 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 really would wish that they would practice this like probably like 100 times. Let's say put like Elijah Jones, who's a lengthier type of cornerback, on Marvin Harrison Jr. and just practice this because the accuracy is not all the way there. Of course, Marv doesn't fight through it completely, so it's actually it could be a touchdown if one of both of the guys does something different on this play. But I want to see this more often in the end zone because I know this can be a completion. I know this can be automatic. I know that if that was DeAndre Hopkins, that ball was coming down with DeAndre Hopkins scoring a touchdown and whatnot. And I know if this was 2001 Kyler Murray where he threw it in the basket, like that would be a touchdown as well. So they should be practicing this like they should be at least having this 30-minute session where they're just practicing this fade to the outside, back shoulder fade, pylon, whatever. Just practice it because then you get this down. This is automatic. No more field goals from that position.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's something that I can't disagree with anything you said there, at least. So let's go in, at least while we're going through some of the different areas and some complaints. I do want to be able to talk a little bit about a negative play that popped up in addition to a positive play. So we're going to go to the Kyler Murray interception that happened late and break down why this is not as much in Kyler as people would think from what they think he was trying to do versus what actually happened. So Kyler said after the game, this is the 3rd and 7 pass play at the Carolina 12. I think this is or 3rd and 7 plus. So this is 3rd and long. You're in field goal range. You were up at this point, I believe, 27-3 or 27-9. A field goal will essentially put this away because the Panthers will have 3 drives left. We'll have to score 3 touchdowns, 21 points on those drives, and then plus a 2-point conversion to get the win. Otherwise, it goes to overtime. If the Cardinals are able to get either one stop or if the Cardinals are able to run the ball for even just 1 first down on that last play, it's pretty much game over. Now, that's why you need to make sure that if you're in this situation, that you're doing whatever it is to not turn the ball over, not get sacked out of field goal range. And that's unfortunately what happened on this play. So it was pretty much just a trips left situation. Marvin Harrison Jr. over to the right, drawing J.C. Horn. This is one of those plays, at least, where Trey Benson runs out of the field. You're probably up high enough. You don't really got to do a whole lot. You can try to go for a touchdown to pad your stats. You can try to get the first down to keep driving the ball forward. You don't really have to do as much when you're up for here. Now, you don't want to take the pedal off the gas, which we can talk about when we get to the defensive review in the next part of our show. But this is the one play where Kyler ended up making a mistake a little bit late. So they make a shift over with Trey McBride. And at this point, you can see Kyler's reading these 2 players here. They've got 3 men in coverage. You can see that they've got now Greg Dortch split out here. Trey Benson is going to kind of be the guy who's going to split out late. So you're kind of talking about, you got 4 guys out in 2 different spots of the field. You got a half field read over here, another read over on this side. Panthers are rushing 4 players. And what we'll see here is that everyone's pretty well covered. If Kyler was going to make a throw, he would have had to essentially decide he was going to go to Marv down late. He sees that Greg Dortch wide open down there. He can just catch the ball, maybe make a guy miss for the most part. He decides, I'm going to be able to see if I can get the ball to Dortch. He ends up under pressure, isn't able to necessarily step up into the pocket or like just the vision as far as we've talked about being a shorter quarterback. Dortch is also looking at least to see where he can kind of, when you look at where Dortch is going, he's kind of making sure that he can just kind of get open on the scramble drill. Kyler, meanwhile, knows the one guy who is here, who's going to be kind of his absolute safety valve, worst case scenario, is Trey Benson. So you watch where Trey Benson's able to move, where he kind of runs up the middle, runs over as kind of that last minute valve, just watching the quarterback's eyes, doing what he's supposed to do, pick up the blitz, getting open. He's just a check down. Kyler's trying to see if he can get the ball to him. He ends up throwing the ball a bit late and it gets picked off. So the question was, where was Kyler throwing the ball? Was he throwing it to Trey Benson? Was he trying to complete the play? He said he was trying to throw it out of bounds. And it's 3rd down. You would not have to worry about the loss of down. You're close enough for field goal range. So let's take a look and see if we watch Kyler's eyes and see where he was trying to throw the ball here on this play.
The good thing is we have at least this angle here. We could definitely see which direction he's looking.
Okay. Yep, and you can see he's looking over when we take a look back at least at where he's trying to get to the ball here. He's trying to see if he can get it, but he can't really flip his hips around to generate enough power. I think in this spot, Marcos, Kyler, even though he's running out, he's wanting to make sure he doesn't intentionally ground it, get the loss of down for the most part like that one. That's one of the things I think that you're looking at for the most part here. He's got Benson who's trying to run upfield. At this spot, you just are best off throwing it away. So he's trying, and you can see where his eyes are looking at least to the sideline there. He sees that there's a player, tries to kind of pull the ball back and takes a hit. He does not get enough time. That was a misjudgment on Kyler Murray's part. So I know a lot of fans are looking at the interception and saying this is rough. And so my answer to that is, yeah, I mean, he got picked off up 27-9. This is something that shouldn't happen. You can hold on to the ball, take a sack even, and you get the field goal. So this is one of the areas of where Kyler, he can have sometimes where his feet will use to make incredible plays. Maybe he keeps running, is able to throw a touchdown on this play. Other times, this one, it seems like he let up because he was trying to just stop, throw the ball out of bounds, live to fight another down, mistimed it. It's something that you say you can't do, and it did end up sparking the Panthers to that huge second half comeback as a result. So it's one of those cases of it's not as bad as I think that fans are saying, but those who are just writing it off, I do agree. Like it's been something we've seen consistently that there have been some turnovers that have happened where Kyler's kind of trusted his arm, trusted his legs just a little bit too much, and it's turned into a spot where in this place, just slide, go down, take the sack. You don't want to lose yards in the play. He's trying to see if he can throw it out of bounds. Sometimes it's better to take a sack than to risk it and just throw it away. And that is where ultimately this play kind of comes up. Right there, number 98 catches it. If it's dropped or anything else like that happens, we're not talking about that. We're talking probably about the Cardinals having like a 30-21 sort of win instead of what we saw, which was offensive struggles in the second half, where the Cardinals were not able to get anything more than those 27 points that they had on the board after this spot with 10:42 left in, I believe it was was this one the third quarter or the fourth quarter? I think this was actually in the fourth quarter, 10 minutes left. And that's something that's super interesting is because the Panthers scored on the next couple of drives and then also scored on an onside kick. So that's one of the things at least that we'll be able to go over with the plays. Let me go and get that to the special teams spot here. And actually, let me go down with that. Before we go over that play, at least for the most part here, let's go ahead and take a quick look over here at some of our people commenting. It's officially halftime for us here on the Red Bird Reboot here. So let's go ahead and say hi at least to, I think it's Kohad. Welcome and thank you guys for listening to the show. Silver Wolf, always there, Silver Wolf. Thanks so much at least for tuning in. Good to see you guys here. There you've got at least here with AZ Jace talking about the play where Benson had a hole on the left side and didn't hit it. Yeah, we'll talk at least a little bit about with Trey Benson because there was a blitz pickup that he missed in this game as well. We've seen that he's had the explosive plays, been able to be good as kind of replacing Amari DiMercato as the pass catching back, but there's been a few growing pains. We didn't see him finish the season healthy, and that's something we'll have to figure out at least. Like you said, AZ Jace, Trey is so close, just needs to be a little bit more north and south. We got Dana as well as in the chat. Good to see you, Dana. Thanks for tuning in. Hank Hill as well, tuning in at least. That's awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in here. And we got, of course, our site host, the Cardinal Rule himself, at least for that one, saying, hello, gents. Good to see you, Joe. Thanks again, Joe, for tuning in. Well, that's it for halftime. So let's go ahead here with the end of the buzzer, and let's go and talk at least a little bit about the defensive side of the ball, especially when it comes to some of the plays that we saw from Arizona that were good, some that were bad, but we are going to at least have to talk at least about the most devastating play that we saw happen in this game, which was the Garrett Williams injury play. So I'm going to pull that up here for you guys. Unfortunately, this is one that we don't like to have to see or to show, but this will show because it was also a touchdown on the exact same play, Marcos.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the Hunter Renfrow in touchdown, right?
That is correct. Yes.
And when he slips on the ground, I didn't know that was the particular play he got injured on. That really sucks to just like be in a situation where like you slip, a touchdown gets scored, and then you're out.
Yeah, exactly. That was the play that it happened at least on. So let me go ahead here and we will do another little quick clip of that here. Sorry for you folks who are watching me go down and scroll to find the play. We had it lost a quick second ago. I'm just going to make sure we pull that one back. Here we go. But yeah, this is the one play, and you can see here for how it's been set up. Everything about this says that it's going to be a run play. You get one-on-one coverage outside with Garrett Williams. You got Budda Baker's watching the play. He's going to try to get into the path of the ball as the running back is taking off. He ends up just being in a spot. And this is almost like Budda Baker is just kind of, I think, freewheeling a little bit on this play, which makes it hurt because he's seeing where the ball is going, trying to check out and get in the path line of the ball. Bryce Young said it will complete it. Budda doesn't quite get there. And as you can see where he's getting tackled, Budda just kind of hits, boom, right to the knee He ends up getting hurt on the play as well. It ended up being more of like a knee to I think it was a knee to the plexus for the most part. But what's tough is like Buddha gets that instant recognition that Bryce Young is keeping the ball, and then he backs up to be able to block off the pass. Bryce, he's got a good mind for all the issues that Bryce Young had. He does a quick throwing pass and throwing motion. You can see that they just run right into each other. So when we're talking about with like, as far as for the time frame and how long it'll be here, you can see that the knee gets hit right over there in the solar plexus, kind of like almost at the knee pad area, and Buddha kind of just gets hit right to the family jewels, as it were. The good news about this is when we first saw it, a lot of people saw Garrett Williams struggling to walk off the field, and a lot of people thought, okay, this is probably going to be like an ACL or a season-ending injury, a knee tear. I didn't think that it was that, but when you can't put weight on it, that ends up being kind of a question. So now what we've seen is he's going to go on IR. He'll have a chance to come back. What you talk about that was grateful on this is it's not a non-contact play, at least. So that's one of the spots, at least, between that and then the Max Melton slamming his knee into the turf. Both of those were plays that are tough. There's going to be some time missed, obviously, for Garrett Williams. IR is probably going to be anything from 4 to 6 games. But bright side for the most part is you don't have to worry about that as much as you probably, I think, Marcos, have to worry about the fact that Cardinals are going to be playing the Niners and then the Seahawks in a 4-day span. So that's something where if you're not going to have guys who are like Max Melton healthy, if Will Johnson's not going to be healthy, and we can go back to the Will Johnson play if we need to, but I don't know if we have to cover. We don't want to cover too many injuries on the channel. The thing that you are really scared about, at least, is going to be if both of those guys miss the next 2 games, you lose the next 2 games. That's going to be a huge detriment to your season. And like we said, the Cardinals have to find a way, I think, to be able to overcome that.
Yeah, that's why the depth that we had accumulated for our cornerback, a lot of it is just unproven. They're young guys, but we actually can say that we have some depth to be able to work with. So we're not just bringing people from the street, constantly introducing them to this defensive system, this defensive scheme, and trying to get them to, be up to date in this situation. So we'll see how it pans out. So far, after 2 games, our starters have been playing really good, really solid. Obviously, Will Johnson, like we all know, he had the highest graded, debut for a cornerback in I believe in history and whatnot. And it shows in the film that he played a really, really, really good game. And this game, had it not been derailed, I hope this is not some sort of situation that continues to happen throughout the season where he's in and then he's out and then he's in and he's out again. So that's what we're worried about.
Yep. Speaking of grades here, we're going to go ahead here and cover some of those grades. So here we've got our offensive grades for the game. Number 1 was Elijah Higgins. So I know a lot of people, when they've talked at least about what is it with the likes of Trey McBride not getting at least the touch. He got the touches he deserved, but people are wondering where are the touches for Marvin Harrison Jr. There was a couple of plays where it looked like they had designed some stuff for Marvin deep, and it ended up being that either there wasn't quite enough time with Kyler in the pocket, it was a longer developing route, or one of the plays that Elijah Higgins had the huge chunk yardage of, they actually checked off of Marvin because he wasn't open, went to Elijah Higgins. It's kind of like the defense went, hey, we're not going to let you beat us with Marvin Harrison Jr. Go ahead and try to beat us with Elijah Higgins. And what did Elijah Higgins do? Have his best game, I believe, that he's had as a professional athlete. He did great, at least, for when you're talking about that. And Kyler Murray was the 2nd highest graded player as well. Did an excellent job throwing the ball. Michael Wilson should have had, I believe, 2 touchdowns. One was pulled back, I believe, due to an error on that spot. We also can say, at least with the 1 snap that he got, Jacoby Brissett on the quarterback sneak, Cardinals with the 2nd effort push were able to pick that up. And then, of course, you've got some familiar faces with Paris Johnson Jr. and James Conner. Something to be worried about. Isaiah Adams, as far as it's come to with it, this was, I believe, the 2nd game where he was the lowest graded member of the offense. They did not like him in pass protection, did not do great in run protection. Trey Benson as well missed a pass blocking spot. There was 2 times, I think. One of them he actually, I think, got by at least on I believe it was a chip block or something. And there was one that Kyler had to kind of step up, make a play, and that was, I believe, the play that Kyler rushed and took off from. So on the defensive side of the ball, we're talking at least about Keitrell Clark being your highest graded player. This is something that we can talk a little bit at least about, Marcos, of guys who need to be able to step up and play better. Keitrell came in, he only had, if you look at that, 15 total snaps. Of those, there was 13 he played in coverage. He looked great. Like, he looked like he was ready to handle stuff. It's part of why, as a Cardinals fan, when you're telling me out of the 3 cornerbacks who are there, if Will Johnson cannot go on Sunday, but he can go on Thursday to be able to cover the likes of Jackson Smith and Jigba, because you've got a Keitrell Clark that's waiting there, you can probably get by with the likes of having a Max Melton if he's able to play, having the likes of Jalen Thompson and Adrian Taylor Demerson switching off in the slot. You can get by without your Garrett Williams. You can get by without your Will Johnson for a week. We'll have to see if Max is out as well. But because you've got a guy like Keitrell, we've talked a lot about this. He's probably a guy who would be starting for another team. They played him outside corner, despite him being a little bit smaller guy. He was their best graded player. Zaven Collins, who had the fumble recovery that rolled into the end zone, did solid against the run as far as run defense, did well as far as tackling. And then Calais Campbell, the old man himself, finishing top 3. That's something that I think is very impressive. The biggest thing that stood out to me also in this spot was that Akeem Davis-Gaither, he's so far looked like a gem when it comes to against the run. So I'm going to go ahead and be able to pull up, at least with the Arizona Cardinals, for their season-long player grades based on what we've had at least with them. And it's pretty middle of the pack, you would think, for the most part. But I'll pull up the offensive schedule here. So for your regular and postseason, your top graded players have been Elijah Higgins and Kyler Murray. Higgins has not had nearly as many snaps. So we're talking about the total amount of snaps what they have as far as the offensive grade. You have the ability to see it. It's been Kyler Murray, it's been Trey McBride, it's been Paris Johnson, it's been James Conner, it's been Marvin Harrison Jr. It's like fork has been found in kitchen, right? Like, you're looking for your studs, your pros, your Pro Bowlers. These are the highest graded guys. These are the guys who are getting the highest grades. Lowest grade, Isaiah Adams. One of the things that I think we're going to wonder, Marcos, over the next couple of weeks is against the Niners with that pass rush, against the Seahawks with Mike McDonald's defense, there's going to be some fans who are going to be clamoring for Will Hernandez to get back there. We also are not seeing some guys like a Zay Jones step up. Greg Dortch is a little bit lower there. The guy who really is their number 2 receiver is Michael Wilson right now. But it feels like at this spot, they're probably not seeing enough plays to be able to actually say that, yes, the Cardinals have a solid third target. As far as he's solid, but being able to kind of elevate the receiving core, we really just see it be Elijah Higgins and Trey McBride. Those have been kind of the 2 guys that they've run their passing game through, along with Marvin Harrison Jr. for 1, 2, 3, and occasionally with a touchdown throw to Michael Wilson. I think that at this point, Marcos, I'm not as concerned with it's a 2-game sample size for Isaiah Adams, but these next 2 games are going to be so important that if you don't see Isaiah Adams pick up the sense of play, I'm going to call the shot. Put John Gaines in until Will Hernandez is ready to come back. We've been able to see that even though he's only come in on the 1 game and on the 1 snap thus far, I've seen enough from him in preseason to say that at least at the guard, you got to do something different to try to see if you can bump some of that up. And if you're just trading back and forth blows with these 2 guys, you're probably going to be in a spot where you're going to need to figure out long-term, do you have another guard on the roster, or you're going to have to say, we got to go out and sign a guard, pay a ton of money, and draft a couple of guards higher than money Austin Fort's drafted in the past.
Well, I brought this up constantly when it comes to like our guards and guard play. It's very, very important, and it's not good to see 3 or 4 of our offensive linemen grading below like the 60s and whatnot. That's a very, very bad position to be in. You could have a all pro type of tackle, but the rest of your line has to hold up as well, because they'll just attack that part of the line, and that'll be the weakness. You could do some things to try to maybe like you know help that situation. So the question obviously is with the new hire that we have at offensive line coach. What's going on that's different that he's doing differently? What kind of schemes is he pulling from the Ohio State, system coming over to like the Cardinals? Because that's one thing that we didn't really discuss too much or emphasize. We just saw Ohio State and we're like, oh, well, he produces top ranked tackles. Paris Johnson just came out of there. Josh Simmons just came out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So he must be an elite guy. And plus, he's an Ohio State guy. We're just going to turn the Cardinals into Ohio State. It's not as simple as that, because the system that they ran with Ohio State is different. And when you're bringing the coach, you're bringing that philosophy and that scheme over as well. And that goes as much as like saying, hey, this is a Shanahan type of scheme. but you were, operating out of like a spread offense in college. So now you got different ways of being able to block. Now you got different
Yeah.
alignments. Now you got different splits. Now you got different like calls and whatnot. You saw the guard earlier in the play. He was signaling, tapping his helmet, pointing down the field, probably, pointing out who the mic is, and then obviously communicating that with the rest of the line. That all changes with a
Yeah.
different coach. So they really does suck that the Cowboys picked that, our old offensive line coach. We don't know what we had until we lost it. And
Right.
obviously, I would like to bet that if we had kept our old offensive line coach, these grades would look a hell of a lot different.
Might be, but I'll go ahead real quick and kind of do a slight disagreement there on one area, which is that of Isaiah Adams. So when we take a look at how the pass blocking grades have played out, at least we know that Paris is the guy. Like, he in a pass blocking rate is basically almost elite so far. He's had one penalty, I believe, on the year, and that's been the only time his name has been called. We can at least see that James Conner, when it comes to the pass blocking, we know that he's going to be better at running the football. Trey Benson, but Isaiah Adams is a pass blocking grade down to 55. We can kind of see on the tape it's been a bit lower. When we take a look at this and compare it to where we were seeing guys last year. So let's go back to the season longs. Now, it's only a 2-game sample size, but let's take a look at the 2020-24 season and take a look at the same grades from what we were seeing. It's going to be Isaiah Adams at the bottom again. That's the one thing, at least, that I think you have to recognize is that when it comes to 2024 and the pass blocking grades, you got Elijah Higgins and Isaiah Adams at 50.3. It's almost identical. So I think the better answer, I think in some cases, yeah, I think maybe you're missing some guys like Paris. Maybe maybe his grade comes down, but it seems like Paris's college coach is getting more out of Paris would be an interesting argument. But I think at the end of the day, when you see Isaiah Adams at the bottom of this list last year and you see him at the bottom of the list this year, I think it's just a case of saying they drafted him off of his run blocking. You can see when it came to the run blocking from last year, Isaiah Adams is right up there under the run blocking as far as with Will Hernandez. He was up there with Tristan Colon, who's a guy that I think got hurt and was not able to come back or was let go. He may have actually followed the coach over to Dallas, if I remember correctly. So someone will have to, I'm going to Google Tristan Colon right there and see, because that was a guy who got quite a few starts. Oh, there he is. He's with the Lions now. So yeah, he moved on to the Lions. He's going to be a backup center, I think, at least there with them as it stands on the active roster. He was promoted at least for all of that too. Frank Ragnar, I know, has gone there. This may just be a case where you drafted a guy for his run blocking. He's flat flexibility. You played some outside. You spent a 3rd round pick on him. You wanted to make it work. I think we're seeing, at least at this point, Marcos, you're probably going to have to demote him and say, you got to work on your pass blocking. You got your 3rd year. Maybe we'll come back and see about one of those spots. But I think it's almost ready for me to be able to say, hey, this may be a draft pick that just doesn't work out. You drafted a run blocker who cannot pass protect. That sometimes is just going to happen. Some guys you're not able to actually say that it's going to be upgraded, as we've seen with the run blocking for this season as well. We're not seeing Isaiah Adams be up there as a run blocker, which compared to where he was at last year, a year ago, he was up there a lot higher. So like you said, everyone I think has been taking a little bit of a seat back when it comes to run blocking and pass blocking. There is one reason specifically why I do want to point out for that. It's going to be with someone,
Wow,
I think it's FB. Let me go ahead and pull up Ted. I know, right? You can see ourselves. I got to pull up Ted Nugent. I think I spelled his last name wrong here.
Ted Nugent?
Yeah, that's right. So the idea, at least for that, as far as for those who are listening in here, there he is. So the reason why we're talking about him is because when we're looking at his football analysis, he's been noting this year that teams have actually been able to figure out different areas of jumping off a little bit quicker on the snap than you would think. So when it comes down to guys who are shifting with some of those plays, I'll pull this up here, at least over with the get to the next play over here, actually, folks. So essentially teams are starting to jump a little bit off of the sides a little bit. So essentially when it comes down, let me see if I can pull this up at least here for that, since I know sorry for the delay for those of you listening on the audio side here. So what we're seeing is that teams are fundamentally seeing defenses make a last-minute shift a little bit more. And we're going to see this from the Niners this week. So this is going to be something that is super important. Let me pull this off of our screen while I find this. But essentially, teams are going to be doing a last-minute defensive shift just before the ball is kind of getting snapped and is blowing up a lot of offensive line schemes. So that's something that's really interesting is that when you're talking about why the run has been struggling, it's not just the Cardinals have been struggling to run the ball. It is a lot of teams are actually seeing, and this is something that they said is being copied from quite a few of the Vic Fangio system. They're having guys that are actually getting a little bit of a bump from shifting at the last minute, blowing up the offensive line, and then being able to see defenses attack the offense. And it's really interesting because it's something that I think, at least when we can go through the film, Marcos, we'll take a look here over the next week and then look, especially against the Niners on Sunday, and see, is this something that is affecting the Arizona Cardinals and their run game, because defenses are just getting a little bit of a jump on the offenses, and it's something that offenses are going to have to find a counterpunch for.
Well, I know what the counter is going to be, and I think I know what you're talking about. It's that last second shift where they're trying to read. They're trying to read the ball and look at, obviously the quarterback. The quarterback's in shotgun. He claps. He raises the knee and then claps, and that's how you have a tell on defense. Like, oh, the ball's about to be snapped, or you take a look at the centers. I remember there's a defensive tackle that talked extensively about this, where he'd pay attention to the center's hand and his hand placement, and he would do some sort of like movement and then snap the ball. So they're trying to pick up those tells of those centers, trying to get better grip on the ball before they snap it in shotgun. It's hard for them to get that read when they're under center. So the counter would be more under center play, obviously, by the offense, to be able to get the quarterback either to roll out if they're going to get penetration, or to be able to run maybe outside stretch. So obviously he snaps the ball, turns around, scoops it to the running back. Running back's gone. All these defenders got penetration, but now they have to run and chase the running back behind him. Those are the two counters I can think about. The last one would be obviously trap plays. Trap plays are beautiful when they're executed the right way. Trap plays would just basically be that, offensive lineman let the defensive guy run right by him. They obviously pick up either the linebacker on the second level, or they would, pick up the offensive line that would be right next to him. And you'd have like a pulling guard or a pulling tight end essentially come on a trap block and hit the defensive tackle on the rib cage, and that's enough to be able to get him out of the play.
Right, and that's essentially where, when these last-minute shifts are here, essentially, like you said, you kind of have that be able to be built in. Here, I'll give an example of that. So here you got a last-minute shift by the defensive line right before the snap starts. They toss the ball, and look what happens over there. Boom. You're able to at least see at the Niners. This is the zone kill, at least for that. Here's another good example, at least as far as when we're talking about that last-minute shift. So look at the outside. He jumps back in. But then what happens is you get 4 guys and 4 bodies down there. So when you look at how the play was originally designed, right up at the front here, let me get this pulled up for you guys watching on screen. So you got 5 down linemen, and one of the last down linemen pulls inside, and then you rotate down, the safety runs down. So there's a little bit of motion right before the snap goes. And so now all of a sudden, instead of being able to have where you've got tossing the ball here to walk, you got 1, 2, 3, 4. You got a guy that was originally not even in the plays now on the play side. That allows the linebacker to simply come in and run through that one guy in the defense. And now all of a sudden you've got 1 player on the blocker, 2 players blocking here, 3. Instead of the original design that we at least were able to see, where when you're handing it off to the right and the guard's pulling, you've got 1, 2, 3 guys over here, and then the 4th guy is going to get blocked out of the play. So you just have Kenneth Walker Jr. just has to basically make a man miss. Now, when you play through everything that's going to be there, you basically have 1, 2, 3, 4 guys that are there. He's got too many bodies. Yeah, he's kind of pulled out of the play, because you're able to see Fred Warner normally in that play would be not here, and then the safety would be getting blocked. He's been blocked out. Warner, of course, is still playing at one of the highest levels that we've seen thus far. A little bit of a last-minute shift that you'll see that the Niners made on the Seahawks. This is just a great play up front, in my opinion, at least, but he's able to shift over slightly. So look who moves over here. So you got the play is designed to run right through the middle, right up over here. Who's going to shift and move over? That's right. number 93. He then is able to run right up the middle past those two guys where the play normally would have been blocked, at least right up the middle where this guy would have been blocking, getting a double block. He's behind the sticks of this guy. And teams are not sure of what's exactly happening, but it is those late second blocks at least that are there. And again, when we're talking about the Cardinals facing the Niners this week for part of our game preview as we wrap up, I know we've got a few minutes left on our show. Cardinals have to figure out how are we going to be able to run the ball against this Niners front that is looking very deadly. I think this is one of those spots of where the biggest thing that and the best way I think you'll be able to attack is continue to run the ball. You're going to have to find ways to attack through the air. DeCommodore Lenore is one of those guys who's probably going to get a little bit of a draw on Marvin Harrison Jr. from the slot. Fred Warner is always deadly. You're going to have to, Marcos, in my opinion, be able to recognize you may not be able to run the ball. You have to still try to find times to do it anyway. But this is going to be a spot where the receivers are going to become especially important because you're going to get a guy like Fred Warner who's going to play the run. You're going to get guys like Lenore is going to be on Trey McBride. Marvin Harrison Jr. on the outside corners is going to be important, just as Niners' offensive line has been beat up. They're still going to have guys play, but they've been relatively beat up. You're going to have to be able to, I think, get after Mac Jones, force some defensive errors, take advantage of it, and be able to make sure Christian McCaffrey doesn't break you wide open. Because they've had injuries. Brandon Ayuk is out there. George Kittle is out. He's not going to be out there. That's something that I think that is very important as you play this Niners team is recognizing these run concepts and having a counterpunch for this new trend that we've seen across the league.
Yeah, you're just gonna have to if this is gonna be their plan, which this is something that I really wanted Vance Joseph to institute. He was a box in the run, let the running back go to the teeth of the defense. Well, they punished them by running outside zone all day, outside, counter and whatnot, because you're punishing the over aggressiveness of your outside linebackers. Well, when you have your defensive tackles shifting last second and running up being able to penetrate those gaps and whatnot, again, you're going to have to punish that. How you punish that? Trap plays. You're going to punish that by misdirection. I saw the Seahawks pull a noticeable run that we designed as well, where we have a running back essentially run behind the motion behind the quarterback, and then obviously from there snap the ball, hand the ball to the running back and whatnot. It kind of changed the direction of the run to be able to catch him off guard. It didn't work for the Seahawks, right, because of their blocking scheme, because they blew that up. So they have a very good sound. They're very sound in the run. I mean, in the gap scheme and whatnot. They have really good discipline to be able to hold those to be able to penetrate those gaps and not so much go run up the field or try to get greedy on the running back, but more so just try to push it to the outside so that the running back has no choice but to either run out of bounds or have somebody tackle him on the cutback lane. So that's discipline right there. And if I'm Drew Petzing, I'm watching this, I'm thinking to myself, all right, counter, trap. We're gonna punish these guys. They want to be they're gonna be aggressive like that. We're gonna punish that aggressiveness.
Right. Especially that's where sometimes it's just going to come down to being able to recognize that coaching is a huge part of what happens. Players also have to be able to execute. We have not seen some players execute. We've seen others execute at a super high level. Guys, yeah, that's basically what we have for our show. Let's get to our Q&A spots, at least for the most part here. So we got a couple of great questions for the most part that we have. One of them from Silver Wolf. Wanting Burke, Clark, and Jones to hold it down, give Melton and Johnson time to heal for Thursday game. Good news, we may not need to worry about Max Melton needing extra time to heal for the Thursday game. He's been out there practicing without restrictions. That's been good. We'll hopefully find out a little bit more about the health status once the agents let some of that out. Very excited, at least for some of that. We know AZ Jace is talking, I know a little bit. Trey is so close, just need to be more south sometimes. That's been the question with him, was always his vision and running north-south. I still had him as the top running back in that draft class. Ultimately felt like that he had the highest upside, the most explosive plays. A lot of it came on like the outside run that we saw for the 50-plus yards. He's behind James Conner, having to kind of learn and develop. It's one of the reasons why I felt between him and the likes of a Cam Scatterbo, I said, yeah, you're going to need to get a guy in a year early. We didn't know about what Scatterbo and all that stuff would be here. He's going to probably take on a larger role with the Giants. So you need to see that the explosiveness, the high play rate, that's going to have to be something that Trey Benson's going to have to develop on, because I think next year, from what we've seen from James Conner, it may be the Trey Benson show, and James Conner comes in to spell him as kind of the Bruiser back. Behind him is the running back 1. Let's see, as far as with some of the questions, at least for the most part, we know Dana's talking a little bit about longer routes, taking another stride or two when K1 is ready to throw. That is something I think, Marcos, we've kind of seen, at least, that there's a couple of times where the Cardinals, they don't have a field stretcher, a guy who runs the 4-3. They've had times where they've almost tried to design plays for Marvin, and it's taking almost an extra step or two where Kyler's ready to throw, and it's getting blown up by that point.
Anticipation. Capital A, like JT O'Sullivan has said, Kyler can do it. I've seen him do it. He's just not consistent in doing that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see, as far as for with the next questions that we had, at least here. We had KR Gordon 08 saying, happy to be here. A long time. Good to be able to see you, KR Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
We got Bird's Eye View saying, good stuff, gentlemen. Thanks so much, at least for the most part. And then also he's saying, okay, Petsing throwing 25 criminal. And then saying PJ has a knee. So with Ferris Johnson, that was something that popped up at least on the injury report this year. I wouldn't put as much past it as long as the practices are going through and not having the same restrictions. That's something at least to be able to look at. But ultimately, I think at least let me double check and actually pull up what we have for the injury report this week. Yeah, I'm not seeing it, at least the first one that they had of Carolina versus AZ, at least for the most part. The other injury report is something I'll pull up in the background, but let's pull up at least KR Gordon talking about Darren Hall. What did you see, Marcos, from Darren Hall in the preseason? Because what I saw was a guy who could be that guy who comes in to cover for a Garrett Williams, but maybe not get the same playing time to push off the likes of a Deidrean Taylor-Demerson. I think that's something that's important.
Well, he did pick off a few balls, and I believe he had 600 snaps of experience before, so he actually should be our most experienced cornerback. Darren Hall, to me, I would feel a lot better had I seen him going up against the ones. He was going up against the 2s and 3s and playing, really well and stuff. I would feel confident to throw him out there at the outside position. But you never know with these guys. Like I said, I'm holding hope for Elijah Jones to get some snaps and hold out and whatnot to see if he can maybe show something that the Cardinals haven't had, which is length on the outside.
Yep. For sure, at least. And then, of course, we've got a last thing. We do have a Discord channel for our show, at least for the most part, like that one. I know it's going to be hard for you guys to put a link in there. So screenshot that on your screens now for the most part, guys. Get that set for the most part here. But yeah, that's going to be our show. Hey, guys, we've got a new show that's airing right now. The Bird and Goal podcast is coming up here. It's already airing. So much you guys switch over to that because it's going to be our Cardinals content that we have for the most part that's going on. Super glad. Hey, guys. For me, make sure you're following me and Marcos, at least for the most part, on X. Make sure you're following the Cardinal Rule YouTube channel. We've got one more show that we're going to be having, at least, with the Bird Reboot on our own Bird Reboot channel before we end that channel, archive it permanently. So if you're not subscribed to that channel, you're still watching it on our old Bird Reboot channel, please make that shift over as well. Ultimately, we get to say peace out, guys. And hey, this has been your Bird Reboot. You guys have finally been rebooted. That means it's time for us to shut down. For Marcos, I'm Blake Murphy. Thank you guys so much. And make sure you're tuning in to Bird and Goal right here. It's one of those don't change that dial right here on TCR.
See you guys.